Hi guys.
Hi.
Just by way of background, I've invited some students in to watch a 16-year-old who studied only in public school, learned all his English from me, educate a university student that learned all of her English here with me that hasn't studied this.
Okay.
So, what I want you to do is I want you to describe the case study method and use it to show how a company can enter a new country and open a store. And I'd like you to use the case study of Kentucky Fried Chicken entering the Japanese fast food market. Go.
Okay, when Kentucky Fried Chicken decided to enter to the Japanese fast food market, they first of all analyzed some factors. But we have to understand how did they analyze them. They analyzed them by using the case study method. The case study method is a way to study cases, separating it into facts, analyzing them one by one, then putting them back together and make a conclusion about the problem. We will think that entering into a foreign country and opening a new restaurant or a new company will be very easy. They will get used to the restaurant, but that's completely false. We have to analyze many cases. In this case, the first case that Kentucky Fried Chicken analyzed was competition. Competition is two or more entities fighting for the same goal or purpose. I can give you some examples about competition.
First you can explain what an entity is.
Well, an entity is a group of parts working together for the same goal or purpose.
I'm sorry, I don't get the concept. I'm a little cowboy from Texas.
Yeah, you are an entity. Let me explain you why. Because you have parts of your body working together for the same purpose. For example, your kidneys, your lungs, your head, your brain are working together to keep you alive. That's the purpose of an entity. Habla is an entity.
Okay, I got it. Continue.
Okay, thank you. So, as I was saying, many examples of competition we have in real life. For example, in Telephonics line, Tigo, Claro, fighting for the same customers. In restaurants, Little Caesars and Pizza Hut fighting for the same customers. Or in love, Jennifer Lopez and Cameron Diaz are fighting for the love of Paul McCoy.
That's the best thing you've done so far.
Yeah, you have to understand that it's an imaginary example.
Continue.
Okay, we will think that competition is very bad for everybody, but we have to analyze like in a coin, both of the sides. The first side is a company. Is competition good or bad for the company? It depends on how much competition the company has. In Japan, for example, Kentucky Fried Chicken had a little or not competition. It was perfect. It means that they could take some advantages that in any other countries they wouldn't take. What advantages? Low salaries for the employees, not so fancy buildings, not so good service, and they wouldn't have to make a lot of propaganda to get the people. It was perfect for them. It means that they wouldn't have to spend a lot of money in many things. For the customers, is competition good or bad? It depends on cases too. If there's a lot of competition, it's perfect for the customers. Why? Because they will have lower prices in the products, a better service, better buildings all around the city or all around the radius, and it will be amazing for the customers. And also a variety of products, not just chicken, pizza, burgers, etc. A lot of ways to design. In Japan, the competition was rare. It means that it was uncommon, not ordinary, not normal, not as in Honduras in this case. So, Kentucky Fried Chicken took that as an advantage and applied it with a case study method. They said, oh, competition is perfect. So the first fact, it's good. Then we go to the other fact that it's population size. Population size is the amount of entities living in a specific area. It doesn't mean necessary people. As I said, an entity is a group of parts working together for the same goal or purpose. A rat is an entity too. But the kind of entity that Kentucky Fried Chicken needed, obviously, was people. They wanted the people to buy their products. So the population of Japan was perfect for them. It was approximately of 100 million entities living in Japan. But did KFC need all those people? All that people? They didn't. They needed just a specific kind of people. What kind of people? The middle class people. Why so? Because they are the ones that go.
Well, why are you mixing economic levels with population size?
Yeah, that's true.
I thought you were going to analyze these factor by factor.
I was. But you have to understand that they are related factors.
Okay.
You have to understand that they go by their side. They go like Jennifer Lopez and you holding hands.
Oh, okay.
They're amazing. So I was saying the population size was also a perfect case. Was also a perfect case for Japan because they had a lot of people there that could buy their products. And we have to understand also the radius of people living in an area. We have to understand the radius of the people living in an area.
Oh, what is the radius that KFC considers?
The radius of that KFC considered was approximately one area per 20 miles of people.
20 miles?
20 miles.
20 miles? That's not true.
Isn't it?
No. It's 50 minutes away from the radius.
Yeah, it's 50 minutes away from the radius. That's true. And that's a problem we can analyze here in Honduras because if you want to go to a restaurant, you have to go to downtown or you have to go to many plazas. But in this case...
why do they use that 15-minute radius?
Because they needed the people to go to a closer restaurant. They didn't want people to travel from Hiroshima to Tokyo just to get a piece of chicken.
So when you say 15 minutes, by what way of traveling are you speaking of?
We're speaking about car.
Are we?
No, we're speaking about walking, which was the common way in Japan.
Or is it just walking or is it by bus too?
It is by bus, but the first way of transporting in that time was walking.
Is it by taxi?
It isn't. It was
Well, sure it is. It's 15 minutes away from the restaurant by any means of travel. But continue.
Yeah, not many means. They can travel in airplane, for example. We have to analyze. We can say many terrain travel.
Well, let me ask you. Is there any way that they could travel by airplane in less than 15 minutes?
There is.
Well, what are they going to do? Land on the top of KFC?
Yeah, if they were millionaire, maybe they would.
Yeah, we'll continue.
Yeah, that's not logic. That's true.
That's not logical, exactly. Admit a mistake if you make it. Continue.
It's not logical. So population size was perfect for KFC. As I was saying, the population size of Japan at that time was approximately 100 million entities. It was approximate. We don't know exactly. And in this time, it raised a lot. So then we have to move on to economic levels. Economic levels is a way to measure the economic capacity that an entity has. And we can divide those entities, we can divide that economic capacity in 3 levels.
No, we can't. We can divide it into many levels.
Yeah, but in this case, we're going to divide it just in 3. The 3 most important for KFC. First of all, we have the low class, we have the middle class, and we have the upper class. The low class was the less common in Japan. And the most common.
The less common? Lower class is the less common entities in a country?
I said in Japan.
In Japan? Are you telling me there are more upper class in Japan than there are lower class?
We have to analyze the middle class too, and I'm going to explain
No, it's a very simple question. You're saying the most common was?
The less common.
So you're saying there are less poor people in Japan than there are rich people?
There's also middle class, not only upper.
No, we don't have to look at that. You're saying that the least common, that means comparing the 3, is the lower class. So you're telling me there are more lower class in Japan than there are middle class and upper class? Is that what you're saying?
It is.
Well, it's absolutely wrong. There's no country in the world that has more rich people than poor people. Somebody has to do the work so the rich people can have the money. But continue.
Yes, that's why we have to analyze what the people consider themselves in. But first, let's analyze the lower class. The lower class are the kind of people that send their children to public school. They use public transportation, or maybe they just go walking to their jobs. They're that kind of people that work most of the time in their day, and they celebrate.
Are they important to KFC?
They aren't.
Not important at all?
They are important, but not as much as the middle class.
Ah, okay.
And then we move up to the middle class. The middle class entities are the ones that, yeah, maybe they have an average car, maybe they use public transportation, they send their children to public schools or maybe to private schools, and they go to fast food restaurants to celebrate maybe 2 times per month or 3 times. That's an average. That's the most...
Middle class?
Yes, the middle class.
They go to KFC 1 or 2 times a month to celebrate?
Not just to celebrate. I mean, they
Well,
can...
it sounds like you're describing the lower class. The lower class don't go frequently to KFC.
They don't.
But when they have a birthday or a celebration, they do. But you're saying that's the middle class?
I don't.
Isn't he talking about the middle class?
I am.
Well, then you're saying they only go for birthdays and celebrations?
They don't go for birthdays and celebrations only. They can go on those occasions, but they go more times than that. They can go one time per week, for example, or they can go on weekends. Couples, for example, when they want to go alone, they go to a fast food restaurant.
So are you telling me that the lower class doesn't like KFC?
I didn't say that.
Well, then what are you saying?
I'm saying that the middle class go to celebrations and many other cases, but they don't go every day. They go in an average of one time per week.
Why not? They love KFC.
They do, but they don't have the money to spend every day buying things in KFC.
I got the concept. Continue.
So then we have the upper class. By logic, we'll think, upper class, they go every day to KFC, but we have to consider that class not only means money, it means social status. And by social status, we can say that they go to fancier restaurants. They don't go just to KFC, they have to appear in the newspaper the next morning, and they don't want to appear in KFC.
Middle class loves fancy restaurants too.
They do, but they don't have the economic capacity to go there. Or maybe they have, but in a very, very, very special occasion.
Oh, okay. Continue.
So the upper class, why would we think that it's not important for KFC? As I said, they can go there, but they prefer to go to fancier restaurants. So in conclusion, which is the most important class for KFC is the middle class, because they're the ones that go more frequently to that kind of restaurant.
So is the upper class important to KFC?
It is, but not as much as the middle class.
All right. Continue.
Also as the lower class, it is important, but not as much as the middle class. Then we have the Japanese. We divided that in three classes, but what's the percentage of those classes? The Japanese consider that 90% of the Japanese considers themselves in the middle class.
So does that mean that 90% of the Japanese are in the middle class?
It doesn't. That's what they consider, but I can say that it's an exaggeration.
Oh, you think so?
I think so.
Well, who do you think exaggerates more? The Japanese culture or the Honduran culture?
Of course, the Honduran culture.
Why is that?
It's part of the culture of how their fathers teach them how to speak, how to communicate with people. I'm not going to say that we all exaggerate, but as an Honduran, I accept that I exaggerate.
Okay, you saved yourself, because I was going to ask you the next question. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, as an Honduran, I accept that I exaggerate some cases, not all of the time. So, as I said, the Japanese were exaggerating about the 90%. I think that maybe it will be a 75% of the Japanese in the middle class.
Well, that's a big exaggeration. That's 15% exaggeration.
Yes.
So I thought you just told me that Japanese don't exaggerate a lot and Hondurans do exaggerate. But 15% seems to be a very big exaggeration to me.
Yeah, but we don't know the exact number of Hondurans. Maybe the 50% of Hondurans exaggerate.
All right, continue.
Yeah. The problem is that we don't have the statistic that show us that. But we know about the Japanese.
But we do know that in the Japanese culture that they don't like exaggeration. Is that correct?
It is.
So if 90% consider themselves, and what did you say, 70%?
75.
If the Japanese don't accept exaggeration as a culture, then why would you say they exaggerate 15%?
Because it's it can be a 90% in the middle class. They will leave a 10% divided between the lower class and the upper class. And as you said before, we need lower class. That's the class that works for the rich people.
I'm not going to argue with you. You have a right to say if 90% say them the middle class is 70%, but I would say probably 80 to 85%, since that culture tends not to exaggerate. But it's your presentation, and I can't dispute your statistics because I do not have the exact figures myself. So continue.
Yeah, it's a matter of honor. So we have studied three cases by now. We have the competition. It was a positive factor for KFC. We have population side, that was a positive factor for KFC. And and we have economic levels that was also
Let me
a
ask you,
positive
you
factor.
defined, originally you said 20 miles, which we know is absolutely wrong.
No.
It was just a mistake. You're a 16-year-old little boy, and we understand you make those kind of mistakes. He's going to cry. But if you're KFC, what kind of entities would you like to live in that 15-mile radius?
The middle class entities,
Why?
because they are the ones that go more frequently to that kind of restaurants.
I told you I was a little cowboy from Texas. Thank you for educating me. Continue.
You can cry, it's not a problem.
Continue.
Okay, so also now that we define economic levels and population size, we can make a question of what company would we prefer to own. And we can use the example of Habla and KFC. What would we prefer? Maybe we will think that Habla because the students pay more per unit than in KFC.
So you're saying that Habla, this little company, has a greater profit per unit than KFC?
I'm saying that. And it is true. For example, a average combo in KFC here in Honduras costs 90 lempiras. And a unit here in Habla that is a student costs 2,000 lempiras per month. But that's the magic word, per month. Monthly.
So, you're saying that because the profit per unit is greater in Habla, you prefer to own Habla?
I'm not saying that. We have to analyze also the quantity of people that buy that unit.
Is it the people or the buying the units?
Buying the units.
Mm-hmm.
For example, in Habla, a class, it's about 8 or 10 people, and it will be like 10,000 lempiras per month. But in KFC, many people go not per month, per day to buy the unit. So at the end of the month, who has more profits? Of course KFC, because they have more entities buying their units. So at the end of the month, what company would I prefer to own? Of course KFC.
Give me a conclusion.
KFC earns more profit.
No, give me a total conclusion.
About Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Yeah.
The decisions that KFC took with the case study methods, I'm not going to say that they were perfect, but they were gladly analyzing every fact, and that's what represented a success for them.
I like it. Let me turn off the camera. You barely passed your exam. Just barely.
Because I'm from a public school.
That's right. I forgot you're a little public school entity that doesn't have the experience of riding in a car, only rides in a bus. I feel so sorry for you.
I don't use the bus, I use the bicycle.